How can you tell if your diaphragm is working efficiently? Meet the ISA. Better known as the infrasternal angle, this is the angle that's created from the lower right rib cage border as it meets the lower left and the xiphoid process. This area is also known as the bucket handle, and the ISA can either be classified as narrow or wide. So think if you had a narrow ISA, you'd be like this, and if you had a wide, you'd be approaching a horizontal line. Now, how does this relate to the diaphragm? Well, the diaphragm is directly attached to the rib cage, and it's going to follow the angle that is created by it. So if you can imagine, if we had a wide infrasternal angle where this really flared out and got to that horizontal position, the diaphragm would be in a very different position compared to if we had a very compressed and narrow rib cage. What these different positions mean is that it's either going to give leverage to the diaphragm or put it in a weak position. What I mean is that the diaphragm is a muscle. So it's going to respond to the usual principles that you already know. So for example, if I grab this dumbbell, and if I had to hold this dumbbell like this for a long period of time, it wouldn't be that bad, right? Why? Because the muscle, the bicep, is in a mechanically advantageous position. However, if I had to hold it out here, it would be a lot harder. The muscle is now in a disadvantageous position. It doesn't have leverage. And so the diaphragm works in the same way. The diaphragm has leverage when it's in a domed position. And a domed position is really going to be when we have around a 90-degree infrasternal angle. So what does this mean for the varying ISA angles? Well, there's a typical presentation that a lot of patients and clients are going to be in. And that presentation is where the right side or the right bucket handle is more closed and the left side is more open and flared. And what this does to the diaphragm is on the right side, it puts it in an advantageous leveraged position. As we go down and compress that bucket handle, the diaphragm is doming. It's synonymous with holding the bicep curl here. When we look at the left side, that's usually more flared, it's going to start to lengthen. So if you think about the dome on the right side, as you pull up on the left, it's going to lengthen or eccentrically elongate this left side of the diaphragm. So it puts us in a position where the right side of the diaphragm, which is already bigger and in a better position because there's a liver on that right side that really pushes up and gives it an extra dome, that right side of the diaphragm is much stronger and much more overworked compared to the left side. So the left side really starts to change its role and becomes more of a postural stabilizer, and we don't get the bang for our buck when we're trying to breathe. So what does this mean for you and or your patients or clients? Well, first we need to understand where we are starting from. Are we on the narrow side or are we on the wide? Now, if you want to dive very deep into that and really understand how that then guides your exercise prescription, I'd encourage you to check out the Performance Redefined course where we have 8 modules that goes into that in a lot more detail. But for this video's purpose, you can get a quick glimpse either laying down or standing and understand where you're at. Do you have an ISA that's more 90 or less, or do you have one that's greater than 90? And from there, is there a difference, right? Do you feel that one side, the right side usually, is more narrow compared to the left? If you're in the common position where the left is more flared, an easy drill we can do is side lying on our left side and breathing with a balloon. Now, what is this doing biomechanically? It's essentially getting us good at what we're bad at. We're not good at compressing this left side, and we're not good at expanding the right. So when you lay on your left side, you put that diaphragm in a leveraged position, which it's not used to being in, and then we're using a balloon to create a little bit more resistance to help to bring that rib cage down as the right side expands. So that's a quick and easy drill that can put the diaphragm in a better position, so that way every breath that we're taking, over 23,000 times per day, it's doing it in an advantageous way on both sides. But next, we start to unlock a lot of mobility restrictions, because when we're not breathing right, we get compressed. Everything starts compressing and we start feeling quote unquote tight. And it's tight because we can't get air via the correct mechanism. So let's wrap this up and bring it all together. So first, we need to understand, are we on the wide or the narrow side? And if so, do we have a left side that's wider and flared more so than the right? If so, start to employ side-lying breathing. It's the simplest way. It puts the patient or client in a position that really they have no choice but to be successful. And then you can start to get them breathing better and to unlock their mobility.